On a night where Montreal needed desperately to show up, it got rough in the end of a 3-1 loss as there was a scrap after a Slaf headshot that went uncalled. But there was some silver lining, Jesse, as Montreal played one of their better defensive games of the entire season. No, it wasn't perfect, but it was solid. The effort was there, and even Dvorak redeemed himself with a goal. There was a lot of stuff we got to talk about here. Slaf continuing his hot start to the season. There is some good stuff despite another loss, and the players weren't happy, but we'll dive into all of that. Plus, we got to talk about Laval, who have been the hottest, I would dare to say the best team in the AHL to start the season, and their game today just showed why even more, with Logan Mailloux and Joshua Roy putting on monster performances. So stick around for all that coming up in this episode of Habs Digest. And Jesse, we're going to dive straight in to the Laval stuff, and I want to mention this first because they are absolutely rolling. After tonight's win, they have officially taken over first place in the North Division. They're now ahead of the Toronto Marlies. Through 9 games, they are 8 wins, 1 loss. They're on a 7-game win streak, and they played back-to-back games this weekend, won them both. And in the game today, Connor Hughes started both of those games, Jesse, letting in only 1 goal yesterday, letting only 3 in on 33 shots today in the win. Joshua Roy with a hat trick. Logan Mailloux with a goal and 3 assists. Mailloux's up to 9 points in 4 AHL games this year. He doesn't look at home in the NHL, but he looks way too good for the AHL, and he's still only like 20, 21 years old. I mean, I have been pleasantly shocked by this team so far. And even Luke Tuch and Vincent Arsenault getting in there on the penalty minutes, getting some rough stuff in. Jesse, what can we even say about this team? This has been phenomenal to watch.
I thought that they were going to be really good last year at the Laval Rocket. It turns out that it's this year, right? It's a little bit of sign for us to be patient as Habs fans. You know, it's like it doesn't always come right away, but often, Josh, like haven't you noticed that you kind of need that success for that farm team for the NHL club to really take that next level? And it kind of makes sense, right? Because they're playing well. They then graduate. Obviously, a big part of their good play helps with that. And then they're then helping the big club. And we see a lot of guys that really can contribute. Like Owen Beck is getting off to a very quiet but very good start early on in his pro career in the AHL. So excited to hear about that because this can be a big player for this team going forward. He's not the only one as well, right? There's Joshua Roy, and as he kind of continues to play well, and, you know, truthfully speaking, you know, like Heineman and Kaiden have played well, but we've seen it kind of go down a little bit as Roy kind of keeps up that consistent level of play. And maybe if, like, you know, Heineman and Kaiden aren't playing the best, it's kind of the difference there. Maybe, you know, Joshua Roy getting his opportunity at some point. Like, we're going to hear about more of that because we needed some goals in this game tonight, as we'll kind of get into it. You know, some Habs fans are calling, like, maybe this is a guy that can do it, but I get where Habs management is coming from, though, Josh, right? Because it's like, often when you're doing this, like, you don't want to be like a yo-yo with the players, right? Like, often get a good stint in the AHL, like, do it well, so that kind of like when you come to the NHL that you're ready. And you got to feel like that's what they're looking to do with Joshua Roy. But as this great play continues, along with others as well, you have to feel like his chance will come sooner than later.
We've been seeing shakeups in a bunch of different ways, right? And it wouldn't shock me if one of the next shakeups to come is a call-up from Laval. Now, the only problem with that is that you have almost no one that you can send down. I think Heineman I think he's still waiver exempt, right? So he's kind of the only forward that you can send down without being worried that they get claimed on waivers, unless you're comfortable waiving Pezzetta. And you can't send Kapanen down. You'd have to send him back to Sweden, right? So there's a bunch of weird stuff going on there. So if a call-up's going to happen, I don't think it's going to be yet, because I think it would involve losing or moving on from Heineman. But who knows? Like, Joshua Roy has been on an absolute tear. He's up to 6 goals, 9 points in 9 games this year. He was off to a slow start. He had no points in, I think, his first 3 or 4 games. And he's now back to a point per game with 6 goals in 9 games in the AHL. Quick note, too, like you said, Owen Beck has been off to a great start. Great two-way start. He's looked like a solid center. He's played everywhere from first line to third line. But he's looked great. He's up to 8 points now in 9 games. But the big story here is Logan Mailloux, Jesse. I mean, I'm not surprised to see these scoring numbers be absolutely insane. He's up to, 2.25 points per game, 9 points in 4 games in the AHL. He looks too good to be down there right now. But the problem is, like, that decision making that's costing him so badly in the NHL is not really there. It doesn't really matter as much in the AHL, and he's taken advantage. But the big thing for me before we move on to the game, I just want to mention this. You kind of mentioned it. Establishing that winning culture, getting these guys used to winning, is one of the better things you can do. Because once you get up to the big club, and if they're not winning, you're gonna have a crazier fire than ever, right? You're used to winning. You're ready to win. You play the same system down there. Why won't that work at the next level? I think that could end up paying dividends for Montreal too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. With these prospects here, it does kind of take some time. But at the same time, it's like with a Logan Mailloux, you have to feel like right now they're gonna let him cook. They're gonna let him marinate. Like we know what he can do, but this time the HL will really serve him well because that's another player too, where it's like you want to give him some time, and for when his next chance in the NHL, they want him to really stick and they want him to have that opportunity and just absolutely run with it. But really important right now that they are having success with this young team kind of early on, and we look to see that continue.
For sure. Well, let's move on to the actual game because I think a lot of people are. I don't even know. This is one of those games that it's like, I don't feel frustrated because I feel like Montreal played pretty well, but I don't feel satisfied, right? Like, you come out of this game and you're like, you have a couple really bad games, you go through the bag skate, and the effort was there right out the gate. The first wasn't that bad. Yes, you go down 1-0 on there's some questionable turnovers, and then there was a Crosby goal, and then another Crosby goal later. But you played well overall, and like Heineman and Slaf getting a point on a Christian Dvorak goal was nice. Monty was great in net, only allowing 2 goals on 23 shots, but he got chippy at the end again with this Slaf headshot here. There was some rough stuff late in the game. Struble having to fend for himself. By the way, for the Pittsburgh fans saying Graves killed him here, I mean, look, Graves doesn't land a single punch, and then Struble does land one, so I'm just saying, I think in my books, Struble wins that one. But it is what it is. I understand if you don't agree. But then you got Dvorak getting the goal, Jesse. I don't know. To me, this game here was like, this is the first game in a while where I'm like, you know what? Montreal looks good. They looked like they deserved to compete with Pittsburgh. And I thought they played okay versus Seattle, I will say, but Seattle still looked like they deserved to win that game. Against Washington, it was horrible. This game was the first one in a while where I was like, dang, they played pretty good and they just didn't get it done. And I do have a tweet here from Eric Engels that I wanted to bring up. He said, this isn't about effort, it's about confidence. This is what a lack of confidence looks like. And I think that's a pretty good way to summarize this game. The team looked like they gave a crap. They went out there and they really tried their hardest, and I think it worked well. But Pittsburgh was keeping them to the outside. What, like a couple shots from near the hash marks? Yeah, a couple shots in close, but look at all the perimeter shots from the point, from outside the circle. They were not getting to the spots they needed to get to. That grit wasn't really there the way we wanted it to be there. Yeah, there were some guys playing well, but Jesse, I don't know. One of these games where the effort was there, but again, just showing that they're a young team, they still have a ways to go, but at least this is a step forward.
Yeah, and at least like some consistent play
Yeah.
for the most part, kind of outshooting them, looking to get pucks in deep and really skate. But it really came down to a couple just key differences in this game, that of which being Crosby,
Yeah.
and then also like some key turnovers again, where it's like a big thing with this Habs team. And again, why there is hope for the future is a lot of the mistakes are really you chalk them down to unforced errors. There's other factors a little bit, but a lot of them, again, like Marty has alluded to, is we're kind of doing it to ourselves, which at the same time is bad. But at the same time, if you can kind of correct that, when you're not the one kind of hurting yourself and making the team kind of actually do that, it lends, itself to the idea that you can play much, much better if you're just not having these kind of self-inflicted wounds. I'm definitely referring, to that turnover from Matheson, where it's like, I always grew up under that philosophy. My football coach, like, if you're able to touch the puck, if you're able to kind of touch the ball, you're able to catch it. Like for me, if he's able to kind of touch that puck, I want to see a harder play getting that puck out of the zone. There needs to be more of a focus on making a hard play when it really matters. It doesn't need to be pretty, but that puck needs to pass that blue line there again. Kind of lead to that goal from Crosby, and we don't want to just single it out one player. Like Matheson is one of those like catch-22s, right, Josh? It's like, it's very rare where there's like so much that you like from a player. Like he can get points, he can skate like the wind, but there's also like at the same time, the same player, like so many things that are frustrating about this player. The decisions making, sometimes the turnovers, and also sometimes screening your own goalie. And the only reason I bring this up, Josh, is like, we have seen it a couple times from Matheson now where, he's getting in front of his goalie and it is creating a goal against. Of course, it's a tough position, being a defenseman in the NHL, kind of jostling there, but you have to feel like, right, but you have to feel, I'm throwing a little shout out to you. You have to feel like at the same time, is he really needs to just make some harder plays sometimes to kind of protect that front of the net. So he's really not, being a screen for his goalie there. So again, don't want to kind of get it to one player, but we've seen for a while where like those defensive issues where we are giving up goals against, it is sometimes a problem where we see Matheson on the ice for that.
Yeah, he's been a -2 again tonight. Now, there were a few players. Well, actually, just him and Kirby Dach. Kirby now, by the way, NHL worst -14. That's the worst mark in the NHL. Hate to say that. It's true that line's not been getting it together, and Kirby himself said it after the game. But anyway, you're very right on Matheson. Like, I like so much about him, but I'm at the point now where like Last year, I was okay with him being the bona fide number one. I know he's not a number one in the contender, but last year is fine. This year now, I'm so much more confident in Guhle or Hudson that something good's going to happen when they're on the ice versus Matheson. And you're starting to see that. I mean, like, Matheson still played 25-40 this game because he's on the first power play and he's on that first penalty kill. So he's getting a lot of that time. But I mean, even strength time on ice, Hudson eclipsed him by a minute and Guhle's creeping up on him as well. So you're starting to see other guys come up there. Hudson, again, second on the team in ice time, first in even strength. Matheson is a great player. He creates a lot of offensive opportunity. But to me, I'm ready for him to be second pairing now. And I think he's an awesome second pairing type of guy. I just think when he's shouldering the load that he has had to do for Montreal over the past year or two, you're seeing a lot of those mistakes come to light more often than you would if he would be a number two guy. So I'm in agreement with you. We'll see what Marty does. I mean, again, I think the leash with him is very long and for good reason, but these mistakes, like, they can't keep piling up when the other guys are not making them as much. So I'm fully in agreement there. Before we end off this video, though, again, shout out to Slaf, who's now still, what is he up to? Like 9 points in 10 games that he's played, or 8 points in 9 games. He has been unreal. Suzuki doesn't get a point, but Slaf was good. And also I wanted to shout out Monty, who got back a little bit. And Anderson, who started the game on the first line. They messed with the lines a bit. Dach ended up back on the top there. Caufield didn't score a goal, whatever. But little shout out there to Monty, our boy Monty, and Slaf as well. Newhook was positive on the face-off dot. There were a lot of positives today, Jesse, despite the loss. And, it's those little things that I hope you can progress on moving forward.
Yeah, Lane Hudson being one of them, of course. Hitting the post again, he's getting so close, right? Like, and you have to feel like, what I was thinking of tonight, I was just like, well, I'm watching this game kind of in the third, we're looking to come back again. It's like always Lane that I look to, and, lo and behold, he's the one bringing the puck there. But I just couldn't help thinking of Lane Hudson and Ivan Demidov. There's a chance, folks, that we can see a decade plus of these two players playing together, throwing in a couple other superstars into the mix. Like, that has got to get you excited at the same time. Like, Lane just continues to play so amazingly well. Going back to Matheson, it seems like Hudson almost is that top pairing guy, like, with the amount of minutes that he's getting. Like, I know, Josh, like, you're okay with still having Matheson on the team, but I know he's getting those points just for what he kind of creates against, though. I don't know, Josh, like, as it kind of goes a little bit further on, I'm like, with Guhle, with Matheson, like, I'm kind of good with Guhle. I'm good with Hudson kind of as being my 1-2. And so it kind of leaves Matheson out of that equation, in my opinion. You can find somebody else kind of on that third pairing on the left side. Like, yeah, he's okay, but just that some of the decision-making, different things. I think that obviously we still need that veteran presence on defense, but I think that we need some more defensive defensemen right now if we really want to improve that play there. I feel like Matt's a big part of it. So in my books, personally speaking, he's on really thin ice just on this team in for his future.
Yeah, I get that too. And like, he is a bit frustrating. And like, if you do want to run left guys on their left side, I'm kind of in agreement. Like, I'd rather Guhle and Hudson even at this point. But if you run Guhle and Hudson stay together, like, Guhle can play the right side. He's been playing with Matheson a ton. So it's like, look, just imagine Matheson as a 19-20 minute second pairing guy who runs the second power play. Like, isn't that, like, to me, that might be perfect. And I still like to have some solid right hand shot defending defensemen. But I think if Matheson can slot into that role, it might be better. Is that day going to come? I don't know. So maybe you want to trade him before his value lowers if that's the role you put him in. There's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, whatever. But Lane is great. Ivan Demidov, even though he didn't continue his point streak today, got snapped in 7 games. He's been amazing. There's a lot to look forward to next season. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. Comment down below your thoughts on this whole game, all the Laval stuff. We would love to hear from you. I've been Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.